Welcome to the latest of our Picks and Ponderings video previews. I'm Paul Major of Picks and Ponderings. You can find Picks and Ponderings at Chicago Now and find us on Twitter at Picks Ponderings. Personally, I tweet at HeyLaserbeam. The calendar has flipped to December, and that means the opening of the Gulfstream Park Winter Championship meet. It also means that it's Claiming Crown Day. Every day at racetracks from Aqueduct to Zia, claiming races are contested. They are the foundation and framework of a trackside's front side and backside. And on Claiming Crown Day, set for the 5th of December, it allows those lunch pail horses a moment of the sun. All while running for big starter stakes purses too. Claiming Crown Day features 9 races with the Claiming Crown brand in numbers of various divisions. It's kind of like the clearance sale of Breeders' Cup days. Although calling it a clearance sale might be a little harsh because these aren't half-off horses. These are some quality horses, just not at the levels of what we've seen in programs like Fall Stars or Super Saturday at Belmont. But these claiming crown races are usually very intersectional, and as a handicapping guide, somewhere between brain busting and brain demolishing. They're tricky, but full of juicy payoffs, and that's where we at Picks and Ponderings can help you. Teammate Nicole Newlist and I will divide and conquer the Claiming Crown Day of 9 races on Gulfstream Park's opening day program. The first of the Claiming Crown branded races is the Claiming Crown Tiara, the third on their 11-race program. Post time is 1:05 Eastern. Well, that's at least what Equibase says, since Gulfstream functions on its own parallel universe of post times. A 1.16 on Gulfstream's turf course. At published time, and at Gulfstream you have to pay attention to turf rails, folks. 36 feet from the 0 position at published time for the rail in the Tiara. Third on the program, a 1.16 miles. Now, one trainer that points to this race for older fillies and mares on the turf, or actually one owner rather, is Ken and Sarah Ramsey. Yes, Ken and Sarah Ramsey would give their heart, their soul, and their spleen to win the Kentucky Derby, but they'd also give their heart, their soul, their liver, and their spleen to win a 5,000 never won 2 at Hawthorne. And one place they point for is the Claiming Crown. They bring back the defending champion of the race, Saint Borealis. She drew the 6-hole, Joel Rosario, to ride for the Ramsey West trainer, Mike Maker. Saint Borealis won this race last year, and on the last episode of Unsolved Mysteries, we're going to figure out how a Ramsey horse went off at 14-1 on Claiming Crown Day. That's what Saint Borealis did last year in winning this race. She wanted those 14-1 odds, and somewhat franked that form when she came back in an optional 25. Keep in mind that these Claiming Crown races are run like starter allowance races. There's a claiming cap price, usually, and in this case it's 16,000, and there's a predetermined time limit. In this case, since New Year's Day 2014. The fact that we have to really dig to find the claiming eligibility on Saint Borealis makes a lot of sense, considering she was eligible for the Claiming Crown last year and won it. Ever since that Claiming Crown, she had an okay start at Gulfstream. After it, she then ran in a deep Grade 3 Hillsborough over at Tampa Bay that was won by Stephanie's Kitten. You might remember Stephanie's Kitten from winning such races as the Flower Bowl and the Breeders' Cup Filly Mare Turf. She then bounced around in the middle of the road, a starter allowance, starter optional claimer circuit at places like Churchill in Indiana. I'm thinking that this is another Ken Ramsey Claiming Crown is on the radar special. When she came back fresh at Indiana in a starter, She was still in the maker barn, and she won going 2 back at a mile 16th on the Indiana Grand Turf. When she came off of a layoff in the springtime at Gulfstream after the Claiming Crown, there was a bit of a dud there. But I'm more concerned. But I'm more like the fact that this one hasn't been bouncing around with trainers, and the fact that Maker hasn't given up on it. This is a horse who probably could run in a 35-40 claimer. But the fact that the Ramseys kept it, the fact that Maker kept it, means they've had this race in the crosshairs. I don't think we'll get 14-1 like we did last year, but considering this is a large field with a lot of trip possibilities, a square, maybe we'll get a $14 mutual, and 6-1 is A-okay with me. One post to the right of St. Borealis is Be Playful. Yes, for those of you who, yes, we here at Picks and Ponderings do our video previews, whether it be from Chicago or some other suburb, and we often wax poetic about Chris Block. And Chris Block is the trainer of this one, and the Block family operation serves as owner and breeder. Be Playful ran last time in a twice other than allowance at Churchill going a turf sprint. 5 furlongs on the turf where she chased around Super Sacks, who later turned out to win a minor stakes during the Thanksgiving weekend at Churchill Downs. Also, our first episode of Unsolved Mysteries was why a Ramsey horse went off at 14-1 in the Claiming Crown. Our second episode of Unsolved Mysteries is what is Be Playful doing in a 5-furlong turf sprint? I don't know. Maybe Block needed a race maybe Block needed a race. Maybe this was the only twice other than that they could find at Churchill during the early to middle parts of the meet. But that 5-furlong race, chasing around an almost one-dimensional Super Sacks, is almost a throwout. Cycle two back to when she was third in the Stickney against a quasi Illinois bred race, and 3 back she's been collecting checks at Arlington Stakes races. She's got some podium finishes in the Spellman, the Lincoln Heritage, in the Melanie Francis, and in the Stickney. I'm not keen on the fact she was rallying wide in the Melanie Francis, as word on the street at Arlington is that there was a dead rail towards the end of the turf meet. But I think Chris Block put in that 5-furlong turf sprint to kind of put some quickness into it. Block goes down to Gulfstream on a regular basis as himself. There's no trainer changing here. He's not throwing the horses on, say, a Pessin or a Scherer or some other deputy at at Tampa. He's keeping the horse in his own name, and that means he has a good intent with it. Keep in mind that Be Playful started the year in conditioned claimers down at Tampa. Granted, this one was in Tampa's deputy, and that's where our Claiming Crown eligibility comes in. But ever since getting up north, this one's gotten on good form, and we think the good form can continue for number 7, Be Playful. Gulfstream Park's turf course often plays very kindly to front speed. Although last year during the Claiming Crown, it wasn't the case. It actually played fair, as most turf courses go, and for the purposes of Gulfstream, almost a closer's bias. But if Gulfstream suddenly turns into a pasteboard highway, take a look at Big and Toasty. No, I'm not talking about the Dunkin' Donuts sandwich. I'm talking about the horse at the rail that's trained by Jason Service. Big and Toasty has also done some solid work at Monmouth. Monmouth is a tight turn course a lot like Gulfstream. Also, Big and Toasty has quality Gulfstream form. 7 starts in the trifecta out of 9 career starts, and of course, good work at Monmouth. Yes, you could have had Big and Toasty for $20,000 last time at Monmouth in the summertime, but when Big and Toasty has come back off of some layoffs, there's been some quality, there's been some good performances. I think a first level allowance might have been over the head of Big and Toasty, but when Big and Toasty came back at an optional 35 earlier in the year at Gulfstream, this one got a win. I'm going to throw out the turf sprint start at Belmont. That's also off the layoff because we're going 2 turns here at Gulfstream. I don't think a 1-turn race is relevant for her. Just like I don't think a 1-turn race is relevant for Be Playful. Still, we've also got the crafty Edgar Prado aboard, and if we need to doubt the ability of Edgar Prado to ride speed horses, please direct your YouTube videos to Run Happy's Run in the Phoenix. He'll be fine. She'll be fine. So in the third race on the opening day, Saturday, December 5th program at Gulfstream, the $125,000 Claiming Crown Tiara. I like the number 6, Saint Borealis, over the number 7, Be Playful. And I'm going to slot third the number 1, Big and Toasty. This video preview is made before morning line, so we don't have that availability at this time. Our long shot to watch comes from the far outside, breaking from post 12, and that's Seeking Treasure. These Claiming Crown races kind of can be divided into horses from a circuit. You've got a horse from the Kentucky circuit, a horse from the New York circuit, a horse from the Chicago circuit, Be Playful. Seeking Treasure probably functions as the B or C horse from the Chicago circuit. And keep in mind, horses from Chicago have gone down many a times and had some good and made hay in the Claiming Crown. Think of Lord of the Game in the Jewel a number of years back, and also Nicky Sandcastle. So the idea of an Arlington or Hawthorne horse doing good work in the Claiming Crown isn't that far-fetched. Seeking Treasure, okay, Seeking Treasure does have looks like Seeking Treasure's in over her head, but I don't necessarily think that. She came out of the Modesty 4-back, but that was a grade 3, and I don't think she's facing grade 3 horses in the Claiming Crown. Claiming Crown isn't a graded race. It's a restricted race with starter stakes conditions. Instead, look at the fact that she was second 2-back in a stakes over the ups and downs of Kentucky Downs. She's been racing in mostly allowance company, which is higher than claiming company. So she's bringing in some class. Yeah, she did start for a 30,000 claimer very early in the year at Fairgrounds. But ever since getting up to Arlington and getting on a firmer course, that start in the Modesty was on good ground. Although probably closer to yielding, and she's also got a third on yielding during the Arlington meet. But looking at her firm turf starts, the record is better, the placings are better, and Gulfstream tends to play firmer than other courses. Maybe this one likes the pace boards, and if Gulfstream should be a pace board highway, she'll be on the on-ramp to blowing up your exotics. Seeking Treasure at number 12 to be as our long shot. So let's recap. In the third, on the opening day, Gulfstream Park program Saturday, the Claiming Crown Tiara. I like the number 6, Saint Borealis. Slotting second, number 7, Be Playful. Third goes to number 1. That's Big and Toasty. The long shot will be number 12, Seeking Treasure. Good luck on Claiming Crown Saturday from Picks and Ponderings.